Wisconsin hasn't won a national championship since 1928. And in order to attain that new goal, they're going to have to take one step closer to doing it by beating Ohio State tomorrow night in the Big Ten Championship game. We'll preview the game, discuss the key players to watch in the game as we go one-on-one with Ben Wargel, who covers Wisconsin football and basketball for Badger247.com. We're going to do that right here on the OFN Meeting Room with Greg DePalma. All right, it's December 1st, 2017. I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in to the OFN Meeting Room as we talk Big Ten football with Ben Wargel, who was with us just a few weeks ago. Good to have him back again. Ben, kind of figured that this time was going to come. Even the last time we spoke to you about playing in this Big Ten championship game, it was a foregone conclusion for some weeks now, but the team's still undefeated. There's a serious chance for a playoff berth, so there's got to be a ton of excitement going on with the program.
Yeah, this game has been labeled by some in the media and certainly by the fan base as the biggest game in the history of Wisconsin football, and it's not a stretch to buy into that.
Okay.
Because Wisconsin has not been in this position before this late in the season where they can sense from a fan base perspective that a national championship is a realistic possibility. And that became true on Tuesday when Wisconsin debuted at number 4.
Mm-hmm.
I should say they were number 4 this past week. That's the highest ranking they've ever achieved in the short time frame of the CFP. So you think if they beat Ohio State and win their 15th Big Ten championship, they will be in the top 4, and they will be one of 4 teams alive for a national championship. And there's been big games in the past, but certainly not any that really come close to the weight and the magnitude of what's on this game for Wisconsin tomorrow night.
So tell me about now, of course, some of these matchups that we're seeing in the Big Ten Championship and the other championships, we're getting some rematches. So, I'm not, I prefer it like this. These two teams have not played each other this year. So I think that's always cool when you're in that type of situation. So the matchups are going to be unique. We really don't know how these two teams are going to match up. You tell me, what do you think is, as far as take a look at the best case scenario for Wisconsin? If you're an optimist, why do you think Wisconsin might match up well with the Buckeyes?
Well, certainly these two teams have not played each other, like you mentioned, but these two teams played each other last year in Madison. A lot of the same cast of characters are back, especially for Wisconsin. Wisconsin didn't lose a heck of a lot off that team, and I think that helps Wisconsin to a degree of not only are there veterans and their experience on this team, but there are players that went through the pain and agony of last year when you lost to J.T. Barrett in Madison in overtime, where you lost this game a year ago to Penn State after leading 21-7 or so in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a lot of players who were injured that didn't play in that game that are back this year, particularly on the defensive line.
Okay.
So you look at this Wisconsin team from where they were a year ago, they're better. They are, I would say, significantly better than where they were when they played Ohio State back in October. You look at the Buckeyes and you look at the quarterback, and that's J.T. Barrett. And what he can bring to the table gives teams so many headaches with his ability to not only throw the ball efficiently and effectively, but to run the ball at a high rate. And his zone read option and the threat of a run, big-bodied guy, he's tough to bring down. Now, it's very curious what he's going to be like coming off this supposed knee injury that he had, the knee surgery that he had on Sunday.
That's right. Yeah.
In my eyes, there's no way he can be at 100%, just less than a week removed from going under a knee operation. And I don't care what minor, major, however you want to label it, he still underwent a knee operation. Yeah. And this is a running quarterback that has the threat of the run. So I think any J.T. Barrett that's less than 100% has to benefit Wisconsin in some way, because Barrett embarrassed them last year with his ability to affect the game. Ohio State only scored 2 touchdowns in the second half a year ago. Both were on J.T. Barrett runs. Then when they went to overtime on, I think it was 3rd and 2, Barrett faked run, forcing the front 7 to freeze just for an instant, long enough for him to throw the eventually game-winning touchdown pass to, I believe, Noah Brown. I mean, that's just how he affects the game. And he's been around so long, he's so savvy with everything he does, that will be a major thing to look at for this Wisconsin defense. Their running game is good. Their wide receivers, they have a bunch of wide receivers that can impact the game. Wisconsin's defense, the numbers speak for themselves, but they haven't been tested against a team that has this many weapons like Ohio State does. And now you flip it around to Wisconsin's offense. There's a lot to like with this Wisconsin offense. They're pretty healthy going into this game. They have a couple reserves that they're out for the season. Their backup running back, Barrett and their backup tight end, Xander Neville, both were injured against Minnesota. They're going to miss the rest of the season. And I think Neville is a bigger impact than Shaw because he brought so much to the run blocking game. And that will put more of an onus on Troy Fumagalli, the Big Ten tight end of the year, and Kyle Peston, a sophomore who is still transitioning into what the level of blocking required to be a major player in Wisconsin's offense, because they use the tight ends, they use the running game, they use that blocking game so effectively and so well for so many years. This Ohio State defense, I don't think is as good as it was last year, but still very good. And the one benefit that Wisconsin has, unlike the defense that hasn't played an offense of this caliber, Wisconsin's played this type of defense before. You look at where the Buckeyes rank, they're right in the mix with a Michigan team, they're right in the mix with a Northwestern team. Wisconsin has seen those type of defenses before in terms of their ability to stop the run and stop the pass and things like that. So I really don't think Wisconsin is going to be intimidated by this matchup. And I think this is going to be a tremendous football game Saturday night.
Now, when I heard the story about Barrett too, the first thing that I thought was, come on. There's no way he's going to play this week. Who has surgery and then 5 days later plays, especially in college? Who would do that to the kid? Now, he is a senior. That's the only reason that I would be willing to say, okay, he's a senior. You don't want to sit him out. Last big opportunity, still a playoff chance. I can see that. But, I would also not be shocked if we go out there on Saturday and Barrett's not even in uniform. So I don't even know if I could buy this. But let's just say if Haskins plays. Now, Haskins has looked pretty good since he's played. He even looked pretty good last week against Michigan. But as we all know, it's a big difference coming off the bench when you're an inexperienced player and you go right into the game, as opposed to knowing pretty much all week that you may be playing in this game. Matter of fact, there's probably a good chance you are going to play. And this is the biggest game of the season for this team, and all the pressure is going to be on you. I don't know if the kid's going to be able to handle it. So now Cardale Jones handled it against you guys a couple of years ago, but this is a different type.
I was waiting for that reminder. Yeah, and I was just thinking in my mind, they didn't bother Cardale Jones, 3 years ago when he came up and he just lit up Wisconsin. But people have brought that up this week, especially on the national shows, of pointing how about Wisconsin and how Ohio State is just going to be this or this. But that was such a different team. And I know it's only 3 years ago, but Paul Chryst was not the head coach then. He was in Pittsburgh. Gary Anderson was the head coach, and he was pretty much on his way out the door, going to Oregon State. Very few of those players who played significant roles are still with the team. It's an entirely different team, entirely different mindset. That the players even talked to them this week. Some of the seniors, they remember that. They remember the feeling of it. But the things that happened last year struck a bigger chord with them. Losing to Penn State in this game, losing to Ohio State at home. Those two losses killed any chance of Wisconsin getting in the playoff. You look at Haskins. I mean, not a lot of film on him, but certainly more film on him than Cardale Jones. 3 years ago. And, this coaching staff, especially defensive coordinator Jim Leonard, have done such a fine job of really preparing the team for that task at that week and then turning the page to the next week. And I think it helps some that a week ago Wisconsin faced a similar type of scheme in Minnesota with the zone read option, the quarterback trying to be a little bit more versatile and get out on the edges and things like that. That there is going to be some carryover into this week, certainly at a much higher level than Ohio State executes their offense than what Minnesota does. But, Wisconsin will be prepared. I would be shocked if they weren't, because through 12 games, they've been prepared each and every week. And usually as the game goes on, they get stronger in the second half. I mean, they've allowed fewer than 350 second half rushing yards this entire season. it's very impressive what this team can do once they see something, how they can adjust to it.
All right. So, and what about before I let you go? What about Hornibrook? Is it one? I mean, we talked about them before. So, is it just one of those things where I guess do we usually know in the first quarter whether or not we get the good or the bad Alex Hornibrook?
Usually not in the first quarter.
Okay.
Usually, I would say by halftime.
Okay.
Pretty much. This doesn't sound like a big vote of confidence, I realize, but he's been one of these kids, and I just wrote a story about him on Badger247.com. He has thrown more interceptions in Big Ten play than any Wisconsin quarterback dating back to at least 1998. That's as far of the records as I could go back through. And yet, he still never gets down on himself. You never see him hang his head. You never see him really sulk about a mistake. And he's had some egregious ones. Now, he played pretty good last week in Minnesota. More than that, he played very good last week against Minnesota. 15 for 19, $150 through the air, 3 touchdowns to 3 different wide receivers. He really passed the ball around quite a bit. And for people scoffing that, that's Minnesota, Minnesota actually has a better pass defense than Ohio State does this year, just by a couple yards.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to give Hornibrook a lot of credit for his performance in that game. Certainly BYU, when he was 18 for 19, was an eye-popping performance. But there have been so many times this year where he will make a mistake, and shortly thereafter, either in a couple drives or in the very next drive, he will be on point, and he will be throwing darts to his receivers and really opening up the passing game that you go, where is this coming from? And I think maybe last time I was out with you, I joked that he should throw an interception at the end of warm-ups just to get it out of his system.
Yeah.
But you watch him play, and he always seems to get locked in at the weirdest moments, and that usually comes after a mistake. Now, last week he was locked in pretty much from the start in the first quarter. So you never quite know with him. Now, he's 19-2 as a starting quarterback. He's won his last 18 starts. He is developing into a pretty efficient quarterback. He's the number 2 quarterback in the Big Ten in terms of passing efficiency behind Barrett.
Okay.
So he's had a very good season. If he cuts down on the interceptions, he's a very tough quarterback to stop.
What's your gut tell you about the game? I've said this for about a month. I like Wisconsin in this game, knowing that they were going to be in this game, especially the last couple of weeks, knowing it was going to be Ohio State. I'm actually quite surprised that there were a lot of people who are agreeing with that. I do think the Barrett situation is getting more and more people to think that Wisconsin could very well win this game. So I got to believe there's a little bit of confidence in you as well.
Yeah, I was leaning towards Wisconsin in this game. I was kind of actually flipping back and forth of who I was going to pick, and then the thing with Barrett came out, and that really made me lean towards picking Wisconsin. And I was thinking Wisconsin for a number of reasons to begin with. One, I think this Wisconsin team is better than where they were a year ago, and that team took a better Ohio State team, in my opinion, than the one that we're going to see tomorrow night. I thought Wisconsin outplayed the Buckeyes for long stretches. They just did not convert inside their 25-yard line.
Okay.
On 6 trips inside the 25, Wisconsin had 2 touchdowns, 3 field goals, and a sack that ended the game in overtime. I feel Wisconsin is better equipped this year to handle Ohio State. To the JT Barrett situation, there's no way he's going to be at 100%. And now, even JT Barrett at less than 100%, he's still a very good quarterback.
Sure.
But anything you can grasp onto if you're Wisconsin, you have to take advantage of. And number 3, I don't know what Ohio State team we're going to get. I mean, is it going to be the team that whipped up on Michigan State or the one that got pasted by Iowa?
Yeah.
I mean, they gave up 55 points to Iowa, and Wisconsin didn't allow the Hawkeyes to score an offensive touchdown. That, to me, just kind of spoke volumes of how Wisconsin is playing on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm leaning towards Wisconsin. I think this will be a very close game. I predicted 27-20, and just hoping for a fun college football game. And it'll be interesting to see if this team can get to 13-0, maybe silence some critics that have been, very apprehensive of giving Wisconsin some credit. But you watch them play, no matter who they're playing against, this is a very fundamentally sound football team that, in my opinion, is one of the best teams in the country.
Well, unless Haskins comes out and pulls a Cardale Jones, I agree with you, and we look forward to talking to you again before Wisconsin's next game, and I hope it's a playoff game. It'd be great for the sport to see Wisconsin in a Final Four with an opportunity for another national championship. So best of luck, Ben. I appreciate your time for joining us, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Ben. All right. So once again, Ben Wargol from Badger247.com. Want to thank him for joining us once again here on the Ourlads Football Radio Network for Wisconsin football. That's right. Believe it or not, the Wisconsin Badgers are just one win away and an opportunity to play in the playoffs for a national championship. So, hey, the basketball team came real close to winning a national championship, so why can't the football team? So, for Ben Wargol, I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in to the Ourlads Football Network OFN meeting room. And coming up in just a few minutes, Brian Matthews is going to join us on another meeting room as we talk Auburn football right here on the Ourlads Football Radio Network, where the NFL Draft is never quite too long behind. So we'll see you again real soon here. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.